everybody. I'd like to welcome you on my podcast, Renew Motherhood. And in this episode, I'm talking about the hidden danger of not living the real you. And this is Renew Motherhood, but I always love to inspire mothers, women to think from a different angle. And for this, I have the amazing Sean Robinson with me as my guest, and he will give you some insights about his life and his strength and his, yes, support. And I think we can all learn from this. So I'd like to hand it over to you, Sean. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, well, my name's Sean Robinson, and I'm a very big supporter of my wife and the mother of my children and everything, all the amazing things that she does to keep everything on track. And then it is a lot of that support that I can give her that I'm trying to give a great message here for you and your audience.
Wonderful. Yes. Well, in a conversation that we both had before, you started telling me about your life, and it seemed quite normal. And I thought, okay, wonderful. But then you were talking that you're pursuing normal life that you had suddenly brought you to fall. And this became interesting. And do you like to tell us something about this?
Yeah, so I had I felt like a normal upbringing, family of five, grew up in an environment. My parents they're still together. We went through our different struggles and things. I think that were fairly common, but alcohol was it was always around. There was, and I know this is normal. It was just something that my parents having a young lifestyle. There was a lot of people always over. Drinks were normal, and I grew up with a bit of a um, thought of how I had to maintain when I got older. So as I got older, naturally I created my own habits, my own routines with kind of drinking, what it meant to me, the expectation to do this, and it kind of followed me with everything. It was camping, it was all the social things. It was kind of a staple and an item that I didn't think I had any control over. It was just something that I had to do. So finding myself at 320 pounds and kind of miserable, both physically, mentally, it was in an effort to just live a healthier lifestyle that I decided I needed to take a break from certain things, and drinking was the first thing that came to mind. I never really felt like I had a heavy addiction. It was more a habitual relationship with the kind of that lifestyle, and just like I said, feeling I had to have that around me. And it was amazing the kind of things that I would find out as I started to go without alcohol for, I'm still not drinking, but for a period of time, that I didn't realize how much I relied on it in certain situations and certain moments. And I work construction. I'm a manager now, but when this journey started, I was working on the tools, and there's a lot of expectation in different lifestyles and different employments that you kind of feel. I felt like I had to maintain. I had to have the drinks on the weekend. I had to go out after and have the beers with the guys and whatever version of that. So there was a way I felt like I had to show up, and I had to be, and to challenge that and be different was just never something I considered. So taking that break from drinking and really opening up to some different things that I never considered before was the big catalyst for changing a mindset and a lifestyle and identity that I maintained for so long.
I think there can a lot of people can relate to this because if you have got those, well, I would say patterns from your family and you grow up with this and you just like to, yes, to live your life and you take this, what you have learned, what you have seen around yourself. And if you don't think about this, you just go forward with it. So this is so, yeah, it's wonderful that you had a point really when you realized that you have to make a change, and this change actually made you think about your situation and what you really want, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was just so normal to have the Friday nights and the Saturday nights. And, we weren't drinking. Like, I got started before it was legal age. I'm from Ontario. Canada and it's 19 years old, 17, 16, I'd had, first drink or two, and it was all in fun and whatever. But like it was a catalyst, or it was a, like a rite of passage, if you will, to have that first drink with my dad. And it was like there was these life milestones that had an alcohol element to them with that first drink, with that now you're legal age and now you get to go and buy it and different things. So that is my main example of I guess my anchor that held me from a lot of growth for so long. It was like realizing that I didn't have to keep doing that. I didn't have to maintain that. I didn't have to do the things that I grew up thinking were staples, or things that I had to do. I had to, have those milestone moments, and it had to be with an alcohol in the background. And if it's alcohol or it's something else, there's a lot of things in our lives that we hold true, like that's the only thing and the only way. But when we realize that we can start to remove or replace these things with something more productive, something healthier, and it's a lot of things we know in our own lives what this might mean to us. So for me, it was that habitual relationship with alcohol that was like the big thing, that once I started to change that and I got away from that, did I find the strength and the confidence to try other things I didn't try.
That's yes, that's interesting. So what really had to change for this that you were able to step out of it? What did you have to change? Because
So what
just observing the situation and saying, okay, this is not the way that I wanted, but you have your friends and they're doing their what they always did, and then you are the only one who says, okay, I want to make a difference. I want to play around with some other things. What skills
well,
did
it
you
was it was I just didn't know any different. I never really thought outside that box
okay.
of living that same lifestyle or having that same routine and that I did before. And it's not to say anything negative about what that does or what that means to someone else, but it was in that effort to start feeling better and lose some weight and
Mhm.
be a better father, a better friend, that I found I started to feel better. I started to have a better attitude. I started to lose weight. I wasn't up late overeating, and all of the things that came with that. And it was in realizing that I could not have drinks on a Friday night, or whatever. I could go for a walk, or instead of coming home from work and having that drink, or whatever my routine laid out for me. Just changing and doing things differently was like, what, this, I am starting to feel better. And I have replaced having to have X amount of drinks because I'm at a function to drinking something else. Because when I got my mind around the fact that nobody really cared what I was drinking, they just
Okay.
wanted me there. It was a host thing. It was maybe their routine. It
It
was,
could have been different. Could have been that they say, hey, why aren't you drinking with us? Why
yeah.
aren't
And
you
then
drinking alcohol with us? So it's a social thing, I think, to drink alcohol.
it is, and I think it's a staple. It's something that we're used to doing. It's an automatic, and it's a social lubricant, and it's all those things. But once I realized that I could drink whatever I wanted to, and as long as I was there and still in the conversation, and like it was really me that was deciding how I wanted to show up and how I thought I needed to be there.
Yes, wonderful. Yeah, I love this. Questioning yourself and questioning how you want your life to be and who do you yourself want to be in your life has made a huge change. After transforming to a new self, what would you say have you gained from this? Well, we're talking already about losing weight, feeling
So
better.
when I started to make these changes, and I started to find that confidence in not showing up the same way, I started to really look into some other things. I started to look into different diets, and I've tried lots of diets, and they always end up, a yo-yo sort of thing where, up and down, and it's normal. But I never really had the right mindset around any diet or anything I tried. So going into it with the starting small, the taking small steps, adding bits and pieces in a more consistent routine than going from 0 to 100 right off the bat. I found in that consistency that a lot of the things and I think most people try and change about themselves or try and work on, we try to go all in right off the bat. We don't give ourselves a period of time to try it over that time and in a consistent basis. So when I started to be X amount of days and up to a year not drinking, which was kind of the premise of the book that I wrote, it was like going over that period of time and finding that confidence to say, hey, like, what if I dieted? What if I started exercising more? What if I just showed up with a different attitude and was more conscious of my response to certain things, or how I would carry a conversation? It was realizing that a lot of the methods and a lot of the strategy was the same. And backing up a bit, when I first started the journey, I had a lot of other old mindsets that I thought were true, like, self-help and all of these things were for somebody else. And I don't know what that meant to me, but it didn't feel like it was something I could do,
Mhm.
because I was coming from a construction background. My dad's a mechanic, and I grew up in it was a good environment, but it was a lot of toxic masculinity, and there's certain generational traumas from older generations, and I
Mhm.
think part of what that means, it was a lot of things that made me think, especially as a male, that I had to fix it myself and toughen up and be a man and all these things. So once I started to actually work on change, it was I had to realize that I could ask for help, and I could listen to self-help, and I could read the books, and a lot of the things that I didn't do and was almost proud that I didn't do before, was I really finding the kinds of information and the kinds of strategy to do to change this mindset, or to show up with a different identity, and to find the right diet and to be consistent. A lot of those things I was never going to learn if I didn't open up to podcasts and books and different platforms.
Yes, wonderful. And what do you mean with toxic masculine? What does this mean for you?
So toxic masculinity to me is a lot like that, to fix it yourself and toughen up and be a man. And it's that pressure that we give ourselves. And I know toxic masculinity can be to women or to whatever gender, whatever someone identifies as. It's For me, it was that pressure, because you're a male, because you're under my roof, because I have an impression, speaking from generations before me, it was like, you pass this down because you think that's the truth, and you think that's the only way something's done.
Yeah.
And like fixing it yourself or self-help or development, it's like you can't ask for help because you have to toughen up and be a man. So the
Yeah.
toxic masculinity part for me was like, you can't show up a certain way, or you can't like a certain color, or you can't do something because you're this tough man and you don't want to be weak and all those things.
Yeah, should have been so you not to be afraid to be weak or to be, yes, vulnerable. Uh
Vulnerable.
you just,
Exactly.
yeah.
It was not showing any kind of vulnerability. And the thing is, like, it takes a lot more courage and a lot more strength to show up and to say
Mhm.
you didn't do something right, or that you lived a way that wasn't productive, or that you were handing things down to your kids that you didn't like, or certain things I found myself doing. Environment and the situations I grew up with was like passing that forward to my kids. The swearing and different things was like, I just thought that was the only way we did it. I thought that was normal,
Yeah.
but it was because of the way it was that I grew up with. Was like, how was I supposed to know any different? And
Mhm.
that's like anything. We don't know any different until we look into and we learn that there's something different. If we don't like something that we grew up with, or that we think is true, well, let's ask some questions and let's talk about it, and let's figure it out, because there's nothing saying that's the only way, right? That
Yeah.
might be the way you knew, but
Mhm.
you can do it any way you want.
We have different lenses that we can look through, and if we only look through one, we can only see these things, and
Mhm.
we have to open up a little sometimes. You wrote a book. What's the title?
Yeah, so my book it's called Going Dry: My Path to Overcoming Habitual Drinking. It's through my website. It's on Amazon. It's like most bookstores.
Mhm.
Uh, it started as a journal for me. It was something that when I started this journey, I left the end of it was about 20 end of 2020. COVID was, first year in, and it that environment and the shutdowns and like everything just magnified an already toxic habit and routine that I had.
Oh, wow.
And it made me gain that extra weight that got to that tipping point, or rock bottom, I called it for me. And
Mm.
it was the journaling that began that sort of catalyst that was like, because I wasn't going to journal before. I wasn't going to keep this diary. I wasn't going to let anybody know that I was doing this. It felt very vulnerable. It felt very, like something like my buddies, if they found out, they were just going to eat me alive. I'm keeping a diary, all those things. I had a
Mhm.
very heavy mental, impression of what that meant. And starting that journal gave me an outlet. It was a very toxic place because I just beat myself up, and I thought I knew what I had to do and I kept saying it, but maintaining the journal throughout my decision to make a change, throughout a lot of the things I ran into, and setting up rules for myself and reaching different milestones. And I was in a friend's wedding and he kept telling me, you better drink at my wedding. You better drink at my wedding. And I'm not sure like how long I'm doing this for. I wasn't like, there was a lot of confusion, and journaling about that confusion and what that meant to me and the pressure to show up a certain way. I kept that journal through the year that, like I mentioned earlier, it was kind of 30 days to 100 days to, what if I could do this for a full year? What if I could not drink for a full year, and really start to work on this growth? So the book is about that year, and actually from my journal to myself, going through a lot of these moments. And really, it was never an intention to put it out as a book. It was an intention to keep for myself and learn so that I didn't make the same mistakes. And it was at about the end of the year, and a friend had asked me, how are things going? And I was like, oh, I could write a book. And
Yeah.
then it hit me in that moment. I was like, I really kind of have written this book, and you know, it's something that
That's
I could have
great.
used. I could have used it when I got started. And it was like, it took me a lot to kind of get around that I was comfortable sharing that vulnerability and sharing, coming
Oh,
from
yeah.
different places, that I put it out in a way that it would help who I used to be.
So to publish the book was another point to step out. Would you say this?
Yeah, yeah, it was a tough decision for sure to decide that I wanted to let people into what I felt was, a weak and a vulnerable moment. And, in a place where I was inviting any kind of judgment, right? When you put something out there, there's a lot of judgment that could come back,
Mhm.
and it was from a good place. So I was prepared for that, and I have not received any, which is amazing. But
Great. Yes.
the being able to put that out in a format that can help someone who I used to be is a lot of why I decided to do it, was because I wasn't ready for the professional version, or
Mhm.
the perfect version. Like, I wanted something that was entry level, was somebody I felt I could relate to, and I
Yeah.
just wasn't finding a lot of that content. So it became kind of easier to feel strong about sharing that for the sake of who I used to be.
I think that's wonderful to really say, okay, let's start with 30 days. Let's go to 100 days. Let's try a whole year, a full year. And with this full year, I think you go through all the seasons, all the celebrations, everything. And if you've done it once, you're ready. So
Yeah,
because the next year starts again. So, but you have gone through everything, and this is the beauty of it, I think, that you didn't stop at the 100 days or something like that, but you say, okay, let's do the full year. What was the
yeah.
impact on your family?
Um, I would learn a bit more how my actions, how I was showing up, would affect everyone mentally. Um, there was a lot of moments that they felt they were walking on eggshells, and I didn't know that in the beginning. In the beginning, I knew there was moments that I wasn't proud of. There was late nights, there was, hangover mornings, and I didn't drink all the time. So it's not to say that if this was a daily thing, but if it was a weekend, there's a good chance one of the days was, nobody was coming to me first thing in the morning, because I was, what version were they going to get? How irritable was I going to be? So as I started to work on this growth and work on not being hungover and being more, more exercise and feeling better about myself, my attitude was changing. The way I was showing up for my family, they I was feeling a lot better, and there was different things that I was able to bring home after listening to books and podcasts that I was learning that translated directly to my family. And one quick example, Energy Bus by John Gordon. There's an adult version and a kids version. Well, the adult version I listened to, and there was something that really stuck with me, and it was the greatest golf shot. And the theory is this greatest golf shot in a round of golf, there's always one shot, no matter how bad you play, that keeps you coming back. It's that one thing, that one shot that's like, you know what, I can do this again. And the context is that I brought home was that one thing in the day that keeps us coming back. So at dinner time with my family, we always sit around the table, and there was some moments. My one young lad is, kind of anxious, and everybody wants to talk about the negative in the day, but I brought this home and we started to talk about that one thing, our favorite thing of the day. And in the beginning, it was tough. There was even like my wife and I'd have, whatever days at work and trying to find one thing, but we stuck with it. And I just said, if it's one thing that made you smile, if it's one thing that made you happy, if it was your favorite color of something, just anything. And my youngest was just 2 at the time, and even she started to play, and there was it became such a cool moment because it didn't matter if there was 30 people over for a barbecue or if we were
Oh, that's
out at a
wonderful.
function. Especially my anxious son, he would start this thing and he would make every single person talk about their favorite thing in the day. And usually now there's like 10 things. Like they come up with all these things, and now
Wonderful.
if they're playing sports with their friends, they're going to the end of the table to act it out. And it became such a cool moment, and we would have never found that if I didn't start this growth. And there's been other moments like that, but that's like a major example of kind of the transformation from where I
Yeah.
was to where we are now.
Oh, that's wonderful because there's so much positivity inside of this and so much you raise the energy of your whole family and actually they give them this energy to others too. So everyone can really, yes, benefit from it. I love this. So
Yeah,
just
and my
a
wife
simple
has actually
thing
taken that
and
to work.
fun.
Sorry, my wife has actually taken that same thing to work. She's a
Oh, yes,
manager, and
wonderful.
she had work meetings and could feel, the environment in a work Zoom call that wasn't very great. So she finished a meeting with this. I want everybody to tell me your favorite thing, and she started. And then they went around, and it just uplifted the entire group. They just loved that part, and it started, the next part of the day extremely well. So it's
Yeah.
it's something that we've used in other areas.
That's wonderful. I love this to give something back and to like a snowball going
Mhm.
bigger and bigger. Just yeah, love this. What was your biggest mistake that you made on your journey of your life, of your that people can learn from? What would you say?
I think the biggest, and I'll talk about two. The first one was just thinking I had to fix it myself.
Mhm.
And we touched on that already so
Yeah.
quickly. Just feeling like I had to be the one to fix it all was a huge mistake. I just didn't know any better. And like the saying, I forget, I think it was Maya Angelou. It's like once we know better, we can do better. So once I started to learn better, it was good to realize that didn't fix it myself. And the other big one was that I felt like I had to do everything perfectly in order to find any sort of growth or any sort of success. And that's, I think, a common mistake. I think we feel, and to talk about the 30 days, 60 days, 100 days, 1 year, we don't have to show up in anything being perfect. We feel like we do, and we feel like we have to go out and buy all the stuff and the new shoes, and if we're going for running or whatever it is we're doing, we have to buy all the stuff to be good at it. But the biggest mistake for me was feeling like that's what I had to do, when all I had to do was start just start whatever it is. If it's walking, once I started getting into walking, and then
Yeah.
endurance running or dieting, or coming up with just a different identity and working towards that, it's start with one day a week, 30 days, 60 days. Don't feel like we have to show up. I didn't feel in the beginning, but I learned, and my biggest mistake was feeling like I had to be perfect now. But just start now and then be better tomorrow and then be
Yeah.
better the next day. And honestly, when you look back, especially if you track this, like I was tracking it on a calendar so I could see every circle was whatever and every X was something else. And these things I was working on, you look back and you can flip through the pages, or even just seeing those X's and marks for 1 week in a couple of months, like you've got a lot of results, you've got a lot of growth, and we don't know that stuff, right?
That's
So
wonderful. It's
just show
actually
up.
vice versa. You just change it, not to overthink everything first, and to think and not coming into action, and to think, okay, how can I improve this and that, and but to say, okay, do it now, start, and then you can go get better whilst you're doing it. And
Yeah.
this is actually more, yes, it goes deeper because the experience of it is inside of yourself and not only in your brain. So I love this. This is wonderful.
And when you think that you're going to be bad at something, right? And it's not to manifest that, because we want to manifest, we want to think, okay, I'm going to get good at this. But you're going to get good at this. So when you start to tell yourself, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this yet, right? I'm not
Mhm.
good at this yet. Or if you know that you're going to be awkward, your body, if it's, a physical thing or if it's a mental thing, there's going to be some awkwardness, there's going to be some gaps. And once you know, like, okay, I'm not going to be perfect at this, but I can get good at it. And you start to know it's going to be awkward in the beginning. It becomes a lot easier to get started on that thing, right? If it's going for a run, if it's whatever, it's going to be awkward. It's not going to be right. I might not have the right gear. Like when I ran a half marathon, I did a few smaller ones, but the first half marathon last year, my shoes, I might better have been running on bare feet. Like my shoes, it was just awful, but I didn't know any better. Right. So I did that and went and got fitted for shoes afterwards because my feet were just awful.
Oh.
And I learned a lot about running shoes. I learned a lot about whatever. And the next run I did, it was like I was on pillows, not even a single blister.
Oh.
And that was an example, but like
Hmm.
we're not going to be good at things when we want to get started. So, give ourselves some time, right? Make
Mhm.
sure you're gonna do this for a couple months, start with this week, but like just know that you'll get better by the first second event or whatever it is. After a couple weeks, you keep doing the same thing, you'll know how your body reacts to it, you'll know how your mind reacts to it, and you'll know what you need, or you'll do some research to find out, like, how can this be better, and you grow with it.
Yeah, right. So, what is your vision in relation to men that they should become aware of in order to, yes, become authentic or to be able to live themselves?
I think it speaks to that toxic masculinity and that pressure to be tough and, fix it yourself. I think that we just need to show up and be genuine and know that, along with a few things I've said, it's not going to be perfect. We don't have to know everything. We don't always have to be, this big strong stereotype that doesn't cry and doesn't show emotion and, has our kids or whoever around us like just toughen up. And like like I said, there's a lot of strength in being vulnerable, and there's a lot of that, but it teaches our kids, it teaches those that they can do that too. And if we give this like tough, and there's times to be tough, I totally get that. It's moment specific, but for the most part, and I've learned with my two boys, I have three kids, so the two boys, they're getting a lot better version of me because I'm allowing them to be sensitive when they need to be sensitive, and when they need to be, upset when they're upset, and to learn when things come. And it's that, I think if men were more like women in some ways, where they show the emotion and where they're, open to their friends, and if we can be more open and vulnerable, then it's better for our mental health, it's better for those around us. It's a strength, it's not a weakness.
Yeah, right. So actually, we're all human beings, and this is crucial for everyone, I think, to
Hmm.
be your authentic self. To and I love this that your kids are able to learn from you and to observe you and to really step into they are able to deal with their emotions too then. If they see, okay, dad has this, is doing it, we can do this too. So they are, yes, a lot of copy is
Mhm.
able to really that they can grow. I think this is wonderful. Do you have a number one advice for men, what they could do right now to get started with living their life, their true life?
Well, I have quite a few different perspectives because, growing up in an environment where I went through certain things, corrected that myself. I worked in construction, both in the field and in an office, and kind of seen a lot of different perspectives from the different people I work around, and I think we all have, everybody's different. Everybody's story is different. There's parts that are different, but a lot of it's the same, right? Like everybody's just trying to get through the day. We're just trying to get through the week. We're trying to, pay the bills and go on a vacation, and we're trying to do a lot of the same things. So my biggest advice is to find out, or to really look at what your situation is, and what can you do today to feel better or to get towards where you want to be, right? We think about goals, we set these goals or where we'd like to be. What can we do right now? Is it go for a walk? Is it not buy another coffee because we're in that routine of it? Like, what can we do right now to get closer to where we want to be? And and it doesn't matter if we feel like we have to show up a certain way because we work construction, or because we're in an office, or because we went through something when we were younger, or we feel like we have to maintain a lifestyle. Whatever our life is, what can we do right now to be closer to where we want to be later? We all know what we want to be later. Do we want to have everything paid off? Do we want to live on a beach somewhere? Like we all have a vision. If we've written it down, or we fully understand what that is, I think we could come up with it pretty quick. What can we do right now to get closer to that?
Yes, great. So would you say it is awareness?
I think, yeah, I think awareness, um, being aware, and yeah, understanding where we're at, and where we'd like to be, and what we're doing to get there. And another thing with like my kids that I had to realize is, like, my and generations before us, we get raised by an old generation,
Mhm.
and we grow up in whatever they thought to be true. And now more than ever, we have the information to go, we can go look at in any moment, just challenge, if we will, certain motives and certain ideas. So now, like, why are we going to let an old generation dictate how we're showing up today? If we translate everything that we learned and our parents learned, if we give that to our kids and to ourselves, we're already out of date, right? It was out of
Yeah,
date probably before we got it.
yeah,
So we have to understand the generation that is right now, right? If we're raising children, what are they growing up in? Because my parents didn't have to set tablet time for me, right? They didn't have to, there's different things. So like I can't use the things that I grew up with to teach my kids. So we
yes,
have to
right.
teach, we have to be more, we have to facilitate, I think, the new generation more than we are.
Yes, that's wonderful. I love this. What is the offer that you have for people? You
I
talked about your
guess.
book.
Yeah. So I'm working on I've got another book kind of in my mind, and I've got some notes. So I'm working on that. But if my drinking journey resonates with anyone, my book is there. I've got
Wow.
my website. Right now, I'm working on getting into more coaching. I'm promoting that change of lifestyle, that mindset shift, basically that identity shift that I went through, in a way that showcases my version and what people can pull from that to apply to their own lives, to say, this person's done this, and Sean's version is that. So, I'm going to try that because that actually sounds easier than the way I understood it. And I'm just putting as much of myself out there and what I'm learning to someone else, even my old self, that can just take the piece that might apply to them and find the confidence that they can do it too. Because one other thing is, everything that we're doing has been done before. right? If we're looking at changing an identity, if we're looking at losing weight, if we're looking like it's all been done before, we don't have to invent the new diet. We don't, I mean, if you can, perfect, because that's, great, but we don't have to do that. We don't have to feel the pressure to do that, right? So let's find the people that have done this stuff before and let's follow them and let's try some stuff that they've done because I don't have to invent it if it's been done already. I don't have to be the guinea pig, if you will, because I can just copy what someone else has done. And if you've learned something, if you've tried something, put it out there because it helps somebody else, right? We can all learn from each other. We can all bring everyone else along, and that's what I'm doing with all of my content and my socials and books and media. It's just in an effort to show what I'm working on to pull someone else with me or give someone else that confidence to get started because I mean it's all possible. I'm not doing anything that someone else can't do.
Yeah, right. So wonderful. I love this. And yeah, where can people find you? You mentioned your website. Are you on social media as well? Can people
Yep.
reach out
So
to
my
you?
my website is seanrobinson.ca,
Mhm.
SeanRobinson.ca, and I'm on most social medias platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. It's all at Going Dry, the title of my book. And I'm on LinkedIn, Sean Robinson. I showcase most of my material across most of the platforms and any podcast or any interview video I share across as many of those as I can. So, but everything should be showcased or linked through my website. It might be the best place, and I put out a newsletter. If you're interested on my website, there's a sign up, and every week Tuesdays I put out a newsletter showcases one of my latest podcasts. It showcase guest appearances. It showcases some inspirational content. It's got a new video that I put out every week and some really great free content if anyone's interested.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you very, very much to be here on my podcast. I really enjoyed it, and I think everyone should listen to this because there are so many people who really can relate to these stories, and you can learn from it to see things differently and to be a better version of yourself, actually. So, um, thank you very much for being here, Sean. And
Yes.
thank you for listening to this podcast and stay tuned for the next episodes.